It is Slafzilla time in Montreal as Juraj Slafkovsky signs an 8-year extension with the Montreal Canadiens at $7.6 million AAV. We are absolutely beyond thrilled for Juraj Slafkovsky, but we got a ton of other stuff to talk about as well, including how Montreal made an offer to free agent Jonathan Marchessault, but Montreal ended up turning him down in some ways. We have to get into how Montreal is apparently in on Shane Pinto, the Jonathan Kovacevic trade, Alex Burrows no longer being with the team, and some Laval signings. There's a lot to talk about coming up on this live episode of Habs Digest. Happy Canada Day, everyone. Happy Canada Day, Jesse. I hope we all had some great days. How was your Canada Day, Jesse, before we start things off?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. We got so much to celebrate, right? It's already a great day with Canada, but then we have, free agent frenzy starting. We're taking care of that important Slafzilla business early on. Big fan of that.
Unbelievable stuff today. You guys knew we couldn't miss this live stream. It's unbelievable. In the new setup, in the new place, as a lot of you guys know. Let me know what you think of the backdrop. I think it's a little cleaner than the last place. We might have to move some stuff around so it's more visible, but it is what it is. And I wanted to say hello to all our channel members in the chat as well. We got Joseph in there. Hello, Joseph. Yes, on our Nations B Day, we get Slafzilla. That's right. 3 out of 3 on likes. You guys like the stream. Like the stream right now. We got a ton of you in here. We got almost 200 already, only 31 likes. You guys know I ask for it all the time, but you guys always hit the button when I ask for it, so hit the like button. We appreciate it, and I hope you guys appreciate helping us out too. Want to get to some others. I see Image One Nation sending some messages in the chat. A lot of names I'm familiar with. A moving sucks. Yeah, it does, Joseph, but hey, we got it done. Planko, ahoy, Planko. Everybody talking about Slav, and no one noticed we moved Kovacevic. We noticed. We might just start with that today, Jesse, since it's yesterday's news, just to briefly discuss it. Love Johnny Kovacevic, Honda Civic, as Hockey Junkie would say. You're a really good player for cheap. Planko, a lot of great discussion coming into the chat, and Derek Rendell upgraded to hat trick member, Jesse. Well, we got to add Derek to the base bar down below. I tried to update this as soon as possible. It should be good as of all the contracts today, but you'll also see all our hat trick members going down there. Unbelievable stuff. Thank you so much, Derek. We'll play the super chat for you because you upgraded. Thank you so much. And Matt, welcome back, Matt. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen you. Yo, what is up, man? Good to see you. Joseph Hipcheck, oh man, such amazing stuff, Jesse. But like we said, I think we'll start with some of the Jonathan Kovacevic stuff just because it's from yesterday. Of course, we all know Jonathan Kovacevic was sent to the New Jersey Devils for a 4th round draft pick. Honestly, it sucks because Jonathan Kovacevic he was one of our favorite guys, and Jesse, I wanted to give you props on this because when we were talking about Habs defense moving all through the season, even into the offseason, you have said over and over and over and over that Kovacevic is the first guy he's probably the first domino to fall. I was never sure on it. You absolutely were, and I want everyone to give the shout out to Jesse in the chat for calling this. Jesse, Kovacevic, we all love him. He's a fantastic 6th, 7th D. I think he'll be served well in New Jersey, but hey, that first domino had to fall to clear up the defense at some point.
And a big thank you to Jonathan Kovacevic for his time here, right? We can remember not too long ago, we picked him up on waivers, and he's shown that he has value, that he is definitely an NHL defender. He might have a big sum.
Oh, we got a little bit of tech issues there. We're gonna have to hold on for a second. There we go. We got some tech issues with Jesse, but it's all right. We'll wait till he comes back. We'll go back here right now. Oh, there's Jesse. You're back. Okay, we had a bit of a freeze there issue, Jesse. I think we're good for now. We'll come back, but I'll let you finish your thought there on Kovacevic before we get to the next thing.
Absolutely no. We're so thankful for his time here, though, all the same. The writing was kind of on the wall. We just got so many guys, right? And obviously we wanted to leave a little bit more runway for those young prospects to really develop. But I mean, he did a service for this team, right? We picked him up off waivers, and here we're getting a draft pick out of it. And I'm just so happy for him, right? He's showing he definitely belongs in the NHL. Absolutely. A really cool guy just in the locker room and really intelligent, right? That's one of the things know most from his teammates about. It's like a really cerebral guy, so really happy to see him just continuing his NHL career.
Not only did we pick him up off waivers and get a draft pick out of him, we also got 2 very serviceable seasons and a guy with some surprisingly high offensive upside in Jonathan Kovacevic. Like, what amazing asset management. Claim him off waivers from a Winnipeg team that didn't really need him. You get 2 good seasons out of it. You get a draft pick. Unbelievable stuff. So thank you very much to Jonathan Kovacevic. But that's just one more spot that's opened up, guys. And I want to get back into the chat here. We got some amazing members. Matt was working on Friday, wore a Habs jersey with the Demidov on the back. You have a Habs jersey with Demidov on the back? Oh my gosh, that is unbelievable, Matt. Yeah, we got the chat up here. And I wanted to thank Joseph. I'm going to put the super chat thing up for this. Joseph has gifted a Habs Digest membership. Z Tizzle, if you are in the chat, you were gifted a membership by Joseph Donovan, so you have access to all our new emojis. And Z Tizzle, if you ever want to speak in the chat with your little Beetlejuice icon there, you can send these emojis, you can speak in the chat, we can do all kinds of stuff. So thank you, Joseph. That's very generous of you. Really love that. I see 4U in chat. I see Zen Mysterio. Joseph saying, yeah, Honda has heart. Ikram, Alex, welcome. Pretty good value for a third pairing guy, to be honest. The start of many trades I see coming. Ikram, guys, as you know, just recently was one of our 2 people to upgrade to Rocket Richard tier. I've been talking with Ikram. Let me know if you want me to still call you Ikram in this chat or your other name. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, Ikram and Jordan Saylor, those 2 guys have upgraded to the Rocket Richard tier. We're going to have video chats with them. They can suggest topics for the videos. And if that sounds like something that could interest you, feel free to subscribe to that as well. As we got our first super chat of the stream, Jesse, and it's from Angie Antolinas, the #1 fan, the self-proclaimed, but also proclaimed by a lot of other fans as the #1 fan. It's certainly a fact. Simply says, go Habs, go. And Jesse, what? No better time to say that. What a Canada Day. What a day for Montreal. And says, Alex is fine. Not too shy of the community. Well, that's right. Alex, welcome into the stream. I see everyone here. Demos Nation Live, I love your channel. Thank you. I see so many people here. Imagine One Nation, in the channel membership section, I believe there's a place where you can upgrade. I think Ikram or someone else or Alex has sent some instructions for that as well. If you can help Image One Nation figure that out. And yeah, leave a like on that super chat, guys. Jesse, this stream is off to such a hot start. We haven't even gotten into the news yet. We got 300 people waiting here. Like, it's just, it is what it, you know, this is what happens when the Habs community comes together.
It's Habs Nation here. You know, it's Canada Day. We're stoked. We're here to celebrate, right? Because there's lots of things, you know, to be thankful for on this day. Obviously, it's like, you know, we didn't get that free agent. It wasn't the time yet, you know, and I think everybody in the chat, I think, Josh, you know as well, like, Kent, he just has his principles, right? He's not a gambler, but he has his system, right? He has his code. I kind of respect him that he really sticks to that.
Absolutely, for sure. It's and I really like that, and we'll get into a lot of that first, Jesse. But you said, you know, we didn't really get a big free agent. I'm gonna have to push back on that because we landed Alex BArre-Boulet. I mean, come on, guys. 1 year, $775,000. The steal of the offseason. We're going to get into the Slav stuff later, but I want you guys to stick around because there's a lot of other stuff. That's the finale. You guys, if you want to stick around and wait for that, you're going to have to wait a little bit before we get into Slav because there's other stuff we wanted to discuss, including some Kent Hughes presser stuff. But Alex BArre-Boulet, this is somewhat of a depth move, I believe, by the Habs. Of course, he did play 36 games in the NHL last season, but in my mind, Jesse, he's more of an AHL guy. 6 goals in 36 games with Tampa. I believe it was with Tampa last year. 46 shots. A lot more takeaways than giveaways. Not a whole lot to go off of. He had 26 hits. He blocked some shots. He's not that amazing. He's 27 years old, though. He's Quebecois, and I feel like he's one of those guys that could easily place a handful of games in the NHL where he's going to spend most of his time in the AHL. And I never hate these kind of moves, especially with Jesse Ylönen now going to Tampa. One of those depth spots is kind of gone. He's a guy that, you know, you can probably just have sitting in Laval, sometimes call him up, might not get claimed on waivers. I feel like it's a low-risk move, but something that can really benefit Montreal in the right situation.
Yeah, a little bit of an older guy, but a point per game player in the AHL, you know, kind of all the same. But at the same time, right, is you're just having an opportunity where if ever there are any injuries, you have somebody, you know, that has NHL experience. Getting that depth within the organization is huge, while obviously still being able to produce at the AHL level. Not only the Habs looking to really kind of take that step up next year, but the Laval Rocket as well, right? So these are kind of these under kind of spoken little moves that really help kind of push the needle and help Laval as well.
Yeah, and like they're very important moves. Like, I mean, are they as important to winning a Stanley Cup as signing a big name free agent when you need to? No, I mean, there's no one going to argue that that's the case, but it is a very important move to build depth, to build a full-out team where you can cover your weaknesses if certain situations arise. So it's never a bad thing. I'm not going to go saying he's amazing, but is what it is. Head back to the chat because we got a ton of channel members, and we got to talk to the channel members. Guys, as you know, if you're a channel member or if you donate, you get priority in chat. We have so many chats. Try to answer as many as we can, but sometimes that's the only solution. Alex or Ikram has given instructions to anyone who does want to upgrade your channel membership. If you do, absolutely no pressure. Just saying, there are some good perks, and you can see all the channel members in here that we're talking to. They get their names in the base bar if you're hat-trick tier, video calls with us and Rocket Richard tier, and if you for some reason decide to go all the way to the top tier, you actually get to appear in a video. That's for, you know, absolutely no need to do that, but it's just an option. So we're going to mention that. Matt says Alex BArre-Boulet will become a 100-point player. In the AHL, I believe it. In the NHL, Weirder things have happened. Nah, they probably haven't, but you never know. Blanco said, did you watch Kent's press conference? I actually didn't get a chance to watch all of it. I've been out all day, Canada Day. It's been busy. Like you guys said, I've been moving. There's a lot of stuff going on. Did you get a chance to watch all of it, Jesse?
I did. At least I was live. I got probably a good 3/4 of it. But I really like how, Kent, he doesn't leave too much ambiguity. He's letting you know, like, without just giving away obvious, important confidential details of the team, he leaves a lot on the table, right? And I just really appreciate just being so kind of transparent. We were seeing from the previous regime that was maybe just part of the problem, right? But he's letting us know of the thought process all the way. And I think that even though we're doing the rebuild right, because they're being so clear with us in that communication, it's why we definitely have patience for it.
Yeah, exactly. We're just going to get into some of the stuff. Again, I didn't get to watch all of it, but I got to see a good amount of tweets on it. So let's just get into some of these. First thing I wanted to talk about, though, is something that came out earlier. We kind of got a bit of clarification as well in the presser. Alex Burrows won't be back with the Habs coaching staff next season. It's his decision, not the team's decision. He wanted to spend more time with his family. He'll stay in the organization in another position. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about a bit, Jesse. And, he's sticking with the Habs, which is interesting, but this actually has some pretty big effects on the Habs special teams. Now, we love to use him as a scapegoat here, and I know a lot of the fans did too. The truth of the matter is Marty St. Louis also has a pretty heavy hand to play in that power play, and even the power play that wasn't doing that great. But to see a bit of a change in the special teams, I don't mean to turn this into a Alex Burrows gone, now we'll unlock everyone. I don't mean to do that, because Alex Burrows was fine, and he's a great guy, and I'm glad he's still with the org. But I think it's going to be interesting, at least, to see how this changes, especially now with Slav getting that big extension that we're going to get into a bit later, with Demidov eventually coming in. I think there's going to open a lot of creativity, right? Lane Hudson, these dropbacks into that thing that we always see every single power play. I'm kind of excited to see, first of all, who ends up taking over. I know we got Letowski signed an extension to stay on the team and all this stuff, but who's going to take over special teams? And more importantly, how is that going to affect how Montreal runs their power play and penalty kill?
Very interesting implications. You have to feel like the PP is going to start getting better. But a big part of that, maybe the new power play coach will help, but definitely I think just the guys getting a little bit older will be huge. But a quick note just on Alex Burrows himself, right? Like, so happy that he's still with the organization all the same. We know that even just last year, right? The power play, 17.5%, sixth worst in the NHL. Definitely not the best. We know even the year before that, but we have to understand he was coming into a rebuild, really young team as well. This is a person that during his time in the NHL, he was good enough to play with two of the best players in the world at that time in the Sedins, while also playing with grit, toughness, tenacity. It's very rare where you can find those players that have that combination, right? So obviously an amazing NHL career for Alex Burrows. We need to give him respect for that. But I believe definitely that it's time for a fresh look on the PP. I have outlined before why I think it's going to get a little bit better, but you have to feel like just a new look at it will help. Josh, I'd be interested to get your thoughts. We know that Marty always said that he overall had the last say on the power play, but I wonder how it could maybe benefit. And I'd love to hear from the viewers as well. Do we think that Marty should be the power play coach? Should he take it over? Because obviously this is an amazingly offensive player, gifted player during his time in the NHL. It almost seems kind of obvious. We know he has a lot on his plate. Should we bring in somebody else, or do we think that Marty's the answer there?
Send in a Y in the chat if you think Marty should take over all those responsibilities, or an N for no if you think that someone else should come in. I want to get your thoughts here now. I'm going to put that in chat. For Marty doing it all, and for someone else for PP. We're going to send that in chat because I'm curious, because that is a lot on Marty's plate, and I don't know how common that is. If it's very common, I would tend to lean towards get someone else, bring someone else in, because again, Marty's going to have that last decision anyway, that last say, and I think bringing in maybe a veteran who has experience with some of the league's top power plays. I'm not going to claim I know who that is right now, but I'm sure there are people out there, whether it's even a minor league coach or something, right? If you have a guy who maybe coached in the AHL before and has a good power play resume, like, why not, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of searching. Speaking of the AHL, we're going to still have to see who fills in for JF Hoole's absence now in the AHL. There's a ton of stuff there, but yeah, great question, Jesse. It's really, really interesting. And head back to chat. I see Derek saying it's still requiring the head coach down there. Yeah, absolutely, exactly. Matt says Slafkovsky's contract reminds me when Draisaitl signed an 8-year, $68 million contract in 2017. There are a lot of similarities, I gotta tell you. Derek says a big point from the presser is getting into the 2025 draft with 2 firsts and 2 seconds. Jesse, we see what Kent Hughes can do with his first round picks, whether it's trading up for something, a better pick that lands him something that he would want, or maybe trading for a player like he's done in past drafts. Having that kind of capital in the first 2 rounds is going to be so valuable to even move into that next step of this rebuild. And not only that, I mean, hearing what he had to say about Marchessault as well, is like what kept them from signing Marchessault was not willing to go 4 or 5 years. And Marchessault said he got an offer from Montreal, and you can only assume it was about a 3-year offer. That is my guess based on the context we got here. And Marchessault said, well, I'm going to go for the team that offers me a longer term. And hey, I can't blame Jonathan Marchessault for that. But Jesse, it's these little things. Kent Hughes is like, I gotta go back to the live chat one. He's like, I'm not gonna jump the gun too early, right? I'm not gonna go out there and just splurge on someone big because we had a good draft and the fans are behind me. Jesse, everyone was itching for a huge splash today. We saw Stamkos land in friggin' everyone landed in Nashville, whatever. And we saw like all these teams making these splashes, the Leafs making some of the most questionable contract decisions I feel like I've ever seen with OEL and Chris Tanev. But Kent Hughes is just like, you'll get Alex BArre-Boulet and you'll like it, but you'll also get a Slav extension. He's so focused on the future, whether it's these draft picks or not splurging on an aging veteran, right? It's like just the smarts behind the way he's playing. He's so calm, cool, collected, and I cannot help but think it's going to pay off in a huge way.
And this is his MO, right? This isn't the first time that we're seeing it, whether it's trade deadline, free agency frenzy that opens. He just has certain principles, and it's no kind of surprise. We all know what it is. It needs to be for the best of this organization in the future. That's the main thing. And what he said, in the press conference as well, was that like for all the draft capital next year, again, open to the same thing of whether, that's improving, using that to package and get better picks, or whether that's for players, right? But I like that. Obviously, he was interested in these players, but we said it all the time on the pod, Josh, like, right? Like getting a Marchessault, getting a Stamkos would be potentially great. I'd say probably more the former than the latter, just for kind of a fit with this team for whatever reason. But like 2 to 3 years, we could do maybe the 3, and Ken kind of agreed with that, but anything more was just too much, and we kind of saw even with Monahan, right? Like he got those longer term type of deals. That might have been something that might have fit, right? Like with this team, but we're seeing it's like, and Kent did mention in the presser again, it's like when it's your window, you can kind of swallow knowing that contract's going to be bad in the last couple of years because that's your contention. And you got to almost respect like making a play while it's your time, even though definitely like some questionable moves from the Leafs again, right? Where it's like, but this is what's going to allow us to be so much better while they're kind of on the downswing dealing with these bad contracts. That's going to allow us to really come up, right? We're already dealing with a couple bad contracts right now. Well, I wouldn't necessarily that, but just definitely some things that we need to get kind of arrange on the books, right? So now isn't the time to kind of get a loaded kind of deal with lots of term, right? We need to first deal with that. I think that that's so responsible from Kent again, right? Just like having a system, and really sticking to that, I think is so important, whether you're investing or anything else like that. Much like building a team, it's so similar, right? That I have my certain principles, and if it gets to this marker, I'm out or I'm in, right? Kind of depending, but you have that line in the sand, so I really just respect, that integrity that Kent Hughes is showing in his role.
Absolutely. It's so smart, and it's something that you just don't see in a lot of GMs. And I think it's because Kent has a very big time job security, right? Like, sometimes you want to impress people. Sometimes you feel like you have to make a move to save your job. Kent is like, I don't care. The organization's put their faith in me, and look at what it's got us so far. He's built this incredible rapport, not only with his own ownership and management, but with the whole league. It feels like a lot of people, I think, are jealous of what Montreal is doing. You'll have the occasional hater on everything they're doing, whatever. But by far and away, the majority opinion is that Kent Hughes is doing a great job so far. And you see that list of players that are there. Oh, it's unbelievable. Jesse, I'm going to scroll back in the chat. I think most people are on board with with hiring someone else other than Marty. But there are some people that are saying keep Marty around, do it all, right? There's a lot of good stuff in here. Alex says, I feel like it just makes sense to give him a shot, see what he can do with it. Joe Donovan says, no, love Marty, but no. Derek says, hire Kovalev for the power play coach who can help Demidov settle in. I'm seeing a lot of people like that. What do you think about that, Jesse? What do you think about Alex Kovalev coming in and running that Demidov power play?
The offensive factor is there for sure. There's no denying. I like Kovalev. I liked him during the time. Believe me, I was watching Habs when he was playing very much. There is just a little bit something of like the compete that sometimes he was just a little bit too unpredictable as a player. And I would never just want that. I'm not saying that would happen for sure, right? You just never want any of those traits to kind of get past or to be used as any type of excuse. I don't know. I think we're just building such a culture. If we didn't set our standards so high in any other world, I'd be like, yeah, okay, but I think Kent Hughes has created a clear vision of what he wants his team to do. I think he's super mindful of really just protecting it, almost being overprotective at times, just because it's still in its infancy, this rebuild, right? But we're getting there, right? Obviously, the hockey intelligence is there, the acumen and everything else like that. But I feel like, we need to be mindful who we're bringing in, but who we are. I think there needs to be a strong concentration on offense, on having a proven track record of getting a power play coach. And I think it's probably the best for Marty. He does so much, not just a coaching, but also like mentoring these younger guys, almost like, solely in his role, right? So to maybe have somebody else kind of come in specifically in that role, I think would be really interesting for the Habs.
It'll be cool to see whoever it is filling. I can't wait to see it. We got Matt who says, I think Kent's waiting for next year to spend money. I would agree. It's next year seems like a pretty good class as well. This year has a lot of veterans. I mean, so does next year, but we're going to have to wait and see. There could be some spicy names that come up. Yeah, Alex Kane did sign in Detroit, as you just found out. Sly Rider, welcome Sly Rider. Sly Rider's been a long time channel member, long time Hat Trick member. You'll see their name coming up right now. Look at that, Sly Rider down below. Good to see you here. And then we got Joseph Donovan saying, yeah, agreed to Chris. I didn't see that message from Chris, but yeah, there's a lot of messages in this chat. And we got Image One Nation, Jesse, with the second super chat of the stream. No message from Image, but Image, you're always in the chat chatting. As soon as you send something, we'll answer it, of course. Thank you so much for the $7. Leave a like on Image One Nation's message, guys. Give some love. He's willing to donate $6.99. Does unbelievable stuff. Leave some love on the stream, and for them as well, it'd be unbelievable. Alex says this year's trades and next year's free agency. We need to shed some bad contracts. Think first. That's going to happen, Jesse. The more years we go into this, the easier it is going to be to trade, whether it's Anderson or Gallagher. And again, I don't like the idea necessarily of Gallagher in another jersey ever, but still, if it has to happen, it has to happen. There'll be some tough decisions that have to come, but I think I'll trust Kent Hughes. But we'll move into the next topic. It's not this one. It's this one. And we got to talk about Pinto. Now, I saw a lot of people in the chat talking about Pinto as well, and Jimmy Murphy from Sick Pod, hearing the Bruins, the Habs, and the Isles are all very interested in Gosse and Go forward Shane Pinto. All three teams have inquired about him in the past. Now, there was some weird stuff going on today, Jesse, with Shane Pinto, because Frank Saravalli came out and said he has not requested a trade, because Pierre Lebrun this morning said Pinto has asked out of Ottawa. Saravalli was like, no, he hasn't. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but regardless, it certainly seems like they haven't come to terms on any kind of contract yet. And when you look at Shane Pinto, Jesse, I mean, he's not a bad player in the slightest. 41 games, of course, he served that suspension for betting on games. A lot of people saying, well, I'd bet on him landing in Montreal. Ha, ha, ha. Very funny. Lowest hanging fruit I've ever seen. 27 points in 41 games, Jesse. 9 goals, 18 assists. 110 shots. He only had an 8.2 shot percentage, and you can expect that to probably climb a little bit. So he's probably close to a 20-goal guy. He already has a 20-goal season under his belt. 9 goals in 41 games, which is an 18-goal pace on only 8.2% shooting, with a really good Corsi for percentage, as in his team controls a lot of the opportunities when he's on the ice. He's a very good player, Jesse. I want to know your thoughts on Shane Pinto, because to me, if he's available, I think he fits that kind of timeline for Montreal. He fills kind of that, he's realistically sort of a middle six talent, but would fill almost like a third line type role for Montreal. And that's kind of what you want to do, right? To be a really good team, you almost need middle six caliber guys having to fight to stay in that middle six, right? You could argue, if you have that happening, you're misusing them or this or that, but having a talented deep four lines is always good. And I like Pinto. I think you won't have to pay too much for him, and he has a decent goal scoring pedigree. I don't mind this at all.
Is it just me, or does Ottawa never seem to be able to have any luck? It seems as soon as they kind of get some good players or kind of a good system, just something kind of goes sideways a little bit there. But yeah, no, obviously this is a very interesting player, not only for his size, 6'3", over 200 pounds, being very good on the draws. He's actually considered by a lot of people to be a potential star, right, in this league, which sounds crazy, right? But I think next year, as he kind of gets a little bit older, I see him having a huge role, right? And we know in the past, right, we've had lots of centers, but as injuries come in, definitely, I could see, for me, even though Owen Beck, and I want to bring that in just because we're talking about a 3C type of thing, Kapanen, for sure we got these guys, and even a Pinto at a C. Obviously, Owen Beck, you maybe want to keep him at center just for being so good on the draws. But I'm wondering if one of these guys could kind of move, on the wings just at a certain point, right? Just getting that different competition at a certain point. I think you really kind of need that. It's so important, just with the whole team and everything else like that. So I'm really wondering, that this player could fit that young, but then also established timeline that this team really is looking for.
I want to give you an A+ on that recovery. My goodness, that was unbelievable. I that was insane. Like, absolutely didn't miss a beat. You guys saw it too. I was mesmerized. I can't lie, Jesse. That was unbelievable. But you're absolutely right. And I think the thing with Shane Pinto too is, like, you look, Montreal's clearly testing the waters on a lot of free agents. We're hearing them potentially kicking tires on line A. I might get into that in a minute, actually. That was an iffy rumor. I haven't really seen that corroborated by many big names. But, like, they're kicking tires on Marchessault. They probably kick tires on Steven Stamkos. And when you're talking about these guys, like, clearly they're not afraid to go out and add a bunch of talent to a team that is kind of deep in a sense already, sort of in the sense that they have a lot of contracts, right? You still have Anderson, you still have Galley. You're not just going to not play him. You still have Dvorak, you still have Armia. And these are guys that are just like, you can't just kick him out of the lineup. You still have Evans. And so it's like, what are you going to do, right? If you bring in a Shane Pinto, that's kind of the thought. But Hughes is kind of just like, at this point, I don't care. I'm going to bring in a good player if they're going to play for us. And I like that idea too, right? I like the idea of bringing in the players that fit the team the best, no matter what, right? So I think in terms of that, I think bringing in a Pinto could be good because it can not force, but, like, I think it could really spur another move, whether it's a move to Dvorak or Armia or something like that as well, to just move this rebuild along, right? So the more I'm hearing about Kent going for these guys, Jesse, kind of a related thing to that, do you think that something else big is cooking with some of these guys that I just mentioned, whether it's maybe an Anderson that he's probably always kind of putting out feelers for, or a Dvorak or Armia to try and maybe make room for a bigger name, a guy that maybe fits the team a bit better in the longer term?
Yeah, I think that's definitely on the table. We've heard Armia's name around quite a bit. He had a pretty good year last year, right? I wouldn't be surprised to see him moved. Obviously, Anderson's a little bit harder to sell. You have to feel like Gallagher, he would be the perfect kind of like trade deadline as a team's going into the playoffs type of acquisition as we get a little bit further on into his contract. It might not be this trade deadline, but at the same time, you have to feel like the writing is kind of on the wall because Gallagher's been with this team for so long. He's that one of those few remaining players of that last vanguard there. So anyway, you have to feel like the Habs know exactly what they want to do. Not only we seeing the top six is changing a lot, but that bottom six as well, right? We got a lot of guys coming in. You have to feel like Owen Beck, a strong likelihood that he makes this team out of training camp. We're going to need to start kind of creating those spots. And even Kent already, he's worried about bringing players in because he already feels like he has so much competition already. So for me, that's a sign that he definitely wants to make a couple more moves to create some more opportunities there.
And healthy competition breeds success as well. Like, if you don't have to fight to get where you are, you're not going to learn that you have to learn how to fight, how to work harder, this kind of stuff, right? So I really like that as well. You got a lot of praise for those saves, Jesse. We got a Bobrovsky level save, says Plonko. We got Joseph saying Jesse got skills. That's it. Yeah. Alex says, I love Galley. He'll probably ride last year's contract into the press box. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of injury trouble. That's the thing, too. He could LTI retire at some point. I kind of, like, contract-wise, yeah, I just hope that Galley stays healthy and, it doesn't get to the point where his injuries truly just keep him off the ice forever. Derek saying, I put Pinto second line and push Dach over to the wing. Mailloux for Pinto, the photographer for the gambler. Oh my goodness. That's yeah. Okay. That's kind of bad, but kind of funny. I'll leave it at that. Joseph Donovan said, yeah, man, Xhekaj does look like he could become a beast. That's the thing, Jesse. Michael Xhekaj, I mean, as much as we've talked about Demidov and how he very well is probably the steal of the draft, Michael Xhekaj, like, look, I love the Demidov pick, but there's something I just love about Michael Xhekaj, his story, and what I think he could be for Montreal. I think just on pure, like, vibes, like, for talent, and, like, also vibes too. I love Demidov, but I might even put Xhekaj above him in terms, like, of just a guy I really want to see. Like, I want to see him blossom with Montreal. I feel like I almost know Demidov is going to do well, but with Xhekaj, I haven't felt this desire to, like, see him really step up and shine in the bright lights for a prospect, like, as much as I have for Xhekaj. You kind of feel the same thing?
100%. The culture is so strong. Like, yeah. I was so blown away with the interviews from Demidov and also from Xhekaj. Like, Xhekaj is like a super down to earth. Like you can tell, like really respects other people a lot, but obviously is extremely strong to go through what he did and still get drafted in the first round in the NHL. I will say on a side note, that Aitos Koivu really impressed me in a press conference. Really just got a couple of those questions like, wow, like we can see culture matters a lot. They're drafting good kids, like people that are really easy to like, right? But Hage, like getting back to him, it's easy to forget. And it's, I think, right for me to say right now and bring this up is like, he is really like a potential top 6 forward. I say there's a greater likelihood that he ends up as a top 6. Good chance that he ends up as a good 2C on this team, right? And we kind of been talking about like, okay, our projected top 6 in the future. We know Demidov's not here yet. We know Hage isn't there next yet, but just with what we have already with Kirby Dach, who I say is like at least a bona fide second line player, still has a lot of ground, but he's going to be just gangbusters. It's like, that is potentially a top 6 with either a Kirby moving to the wing or a Hage right there with what we have already, with Zooks, with Caufield and everything else. So, I mean, that is a very promising future. Like he really plays the game well, and I could see that happening. I could see adding something to our top 6, but that's why Kent wanted to go for those shorter term types of deal, because he knows what his top 6 is going to be like in a couple of years, right? So we really see the rationale, but he's keeping players like Michael Hage and obviously like Ivan Demidov in mind when he's making those moves today.
Absolutely. There's so many thoughts, right? And yeah, Pinto could be amazing too in Montreal, but like you said, we got so many potential options coming up. It's unbelievable. I want to go through the chats one final time, Jesse, before we get into the big thing. Alex felt the same way. Not sure Guhle after played 77 games. He still has 2 seasons left before his final year. Yes, he does. 2 legitimate top 6 talent in the first round is crazy. It really is. Like it really is. And we got more. They all come together nicely. I completely agree. How are we thinking about Capo Caco? I believe Caco signed an extension, right? I thought he did. I'm not sure. So, but if you can get him, maybe. But we're starting to get to that point, Jesse, where you need someone who's already done a bunch of good stuff. Like, I think arguably the Habs are there now. I feel like the prospect pool is like, redemption projects are cool, but like, give me someone that's ready to go. As we saw Kent Hughes offering something to Jonathan Marchessault, being interested supposedly in Monahan, Patrick Kane. I think we're coming out of this era of getting these redemption projects for cheap and let them play on a bad team. We're starting to turn that corner. We got Derek saying, big question, who would be good line mates for Demidov? I wouldn't be opposed to bumping Caufield down on 2. I think we might get into that in this whole Slaf discussion. I think we'll talk about where Demidov, where we think he could fit best. Michael Hage, the wild card out of that draft, agree. Planko with the Slafzilla. Ikram says only 1 year. Yeah, it was only 1 year. You could go after him next year too, right? There's a lot of options for him, but I'd like to see him show his potential truly first. Serious question from Image. Why are people so high on McGroarty after the haul we got in the draft? We have a guy like Joshua Watt. Because McGroarty is an unbelievable prospect, and he is like fully NHL ready right now with incredible goal scoring, and you could probably get him for fairly cheap because he said he's not going to sign in Winnipeg. And when you get a chance to get a prospect of the caliber of McGroarty, I would say like he definitely rivals Watt, if not even better than Watt already in terms of pure potential, and you can get them for like cheaper than normal. I think you go for it. But Jesse, it's time. It's time to get into Slafzilla. So the people who weren't here at the start, the 450 of you who are here right now watching, I'll probably put a timestamp in the video if you're watching after. Maybe you'll skip right to here. Who knows? But it's time for Slafzilla. As we all know, channel members, send your Slafzilla emojis in the chat right now. I am asking you. No, I'm not asking you. I'm demanding that you do it because you have access to it. You have to send it. There we go. Planko's already on it. Jesse, the biggest news of the day, bar none. The 8-year contract for Juraj Slafkovsky. 8 years, $7.6 million AAV. I see KC in the chat. Kyle Curtis, Josh Gosse is my hero. Side note, if you guys like wrestling, go check Wrestle Digest. KC's a fantastic host over there. You might even catch me on a couple episodes. Anyway, Slafzilla in the chat, I already see that. Smash the like for Slav. 8 years, Jesse. Take a look at this graph posted by Dom Lashishin. Canadiens signed Slafkovsky to a monster extension, a deal he should have zero trouble growing into, as his graph says that after just 2 seasons, Slav is expected to pass that expected value. Jesse, the thing with Slav right now, that contract, here's the thing. The NHL contracts are expected to, the salary cap's expected to go up to $92 million in 2 years. The percent of the cap of $92 million. If you take Slav's contract from today and let me try and think about this. Sorry. You take his $7.6 million AAV in 2 years when the cap is $92 million. That's the equivalent of under $7 million a year today. So effectively, when you see this big number, 7.6 is huge, in 2 years, it's basically like saying, oh yeah, he's making like 6.8, 6.9. Unreal steal. We were talking in terms of 8.5 mil for him at 8 years. And we're getting 7.6. This is the most amazing thing I could have imagined, Jesse. The top three guys in the Habs, Suzuki, Caufield, and Slav, all under 8 mil, all for like 7 years down, or I think 6 is when Suzuki's is up, for so long into the future. This is going to look like one of the best roster constructions in the NHL in a few years. I am fully confident of that.
We've secured really kind of a big part of our core going forward, right? Which is absolutely huge. Getting it within the structure that we need as well. Again, Kent is showing that he has those standards, but Slav also, I think, doing something friendly for the team. Even though we could say that it's like, he still needs to kind of prove it a little bit more. It's like, we know that he's going to be an amazing player. We know that this contract is so justified because he's somebody that not only plays with skill, but with heart as well, right? Like, he's somebody that can score goals in the back of the net, but also body people on the boards. If we're looking at his year, the first player, in Habs legend, in the whole history of the team to get the most points, before getting to the age of 20, right? So that's saying so much. He actually led the team last year in block shots as well. He's just doing a little bit of everything, right? I think he adds something that's missing on this team, not just like that skill, which is huge from Slap, but like a little bit of that sandpaper. We can't forget that. Like, this is part of Slap. Like, he's going to rub guys out on the boards. He's going to win puck battles. And that's something that we didn't quite have from Suzuki and Caufield. And that's great because you need them to be complementary. You got the playmaker. You got the sniper. You got the can do it in front of the net, has the skill, firing passes all over the net in Slafkovsky, right? Like, there's a reason that we call him Slafzilla, because this guy is young, but we can't forget, as this guy gets older over the course of this 8-year contract, for how strong he gets, like, this guy's already running people over on the ice, being at 20 years of age. Just imagine as this guy starts to fill out a little bit more, he's going to be a complete game changer. And to be honest, I think he's going to be a bully out on the ice. I think he's going to be it's going to be able to dominate, just strip the puck from this opposition and go the other way with it, and do as he will, right? Because he just has that physical characteristics that you almost just don't see being able to skate like that. That's why we see like Bennett Seneca going so high as well. It's because these players, if you're just so big like that, you can just literally take over a game and impose your will. I know this is big talk, but I know that Slafzilla is totally up for it.
But that's the thing, we've seen it, right? Like, and his jump from starting in the NHL to where he is today in terms of how he uses his body is night and day. The dude looked like a deer in headlights when he first started. Let's not beat around the bush. It is what happened, and we were worried for good reason at the time. He looked like he couldn't keep his feet under him. He got knocked off the puck easy. He had some questionable hits, didn't know. But then all of a sudden this year, something just clicked partway through the year, and all of a sudden he's manhandling people on the boards, winning puck battles, firing these insane no-look backhand cross-ice passes. What we've seen from Slav from this past season, like we'll show it again there, the 50 points, this is just the start of things. 20 goals, 30 assists, and not to mention, Jesse, that he was on like a 70-something point pace over the last, 30, 40 games of the season. Maybe that's an exaggeration. It was 65 or something, but he is expected to only get better and better and better because, that's what we've seen from him. He has only gotten better and better and better every single time we've seen him on the ice. Juraj Slafkovsky this contract is going to be an amazing contract. I saw people talking about that Leon Draisaitl contract back when it was signed, people saying that's a lot of money for what he's done so far. But that's the thing, when you have guys who show this level of promise, you can't just pay them for what they've done. You have to pay them for what they will be worth in the future. As I showed in that Dom Luszczyszyn graph, I'll probably bring that back up. Like, he's projected to be worth so much more because, one, the cap is going to keep going up and up and up. So this contract is going to be worth less and less and less in terms of percentage of the cap. But also he's expected to get better because, guys, he's 20. Players, like, new studies show that the players that play into their mid-late 30s, they peak at about 27, 28 years old, right? On average, players who don't play into their 30s maybe peak a little bit earlier. But so even then, we're like minimum 5 years out from Slafkovsky's peak, which is ridiculous to say. So you have to bet on the future. I'm seeing people say, well, look at what Kyle Connor makes, or look at what Jonathan Marchessault just got, right? Marchessault's a 40 goal scorer, but you know what you're getting, and you're expecting him to decline. Whereas Slav, you're only expecting him to improve. So unbelievable stuff. I got to read through some of the chats because there is a ton of awesome stuff here. Look at all the Slavzillas showing up here in the chat. Slav Billa, says Alex. I'm gonna keep going through here, and I'm gonna highlight this comment. Yeah, we're gonna ban you. No, we're not, Mark. Mark is my friend, guys. He watches for you, Jesse. He said I only watch for Jesse. I don't watch for Josh. That's fine. You know what? He's a Leafs fan, but he's watching a Habs stream. So I think we're both the real winners here. Matt says, Jesse has the most contagious smile. It's very, very true. I see the emojis coming in. Slafkovsky's a rare player. Hard to give him a comparison. That's very true. Like, there's very few big power forwards who can score like he can now and also pass. It's unbelievable. He's a rare specimen. He's a rare breed of horse. His DNA and brain need to be studied. I don't want to say it, but even if Slav is somehow a bust with 7.6, it equals 3. I don't want to wait. Okay, with half retained, he's movable if needed. We're not even going to talk about that because you know what? At this point, I think he's going to be amazing. I wanted to bring this thing up though, Jesse, and this is a screenshot I took of. Whoops. There we go. Oh no, did I not take the screenshot? Oh yeah, I did take the screenshot. There it is. So this is Nick Suzuki, Cole Caufield. You can see them, and you can see Juraj Slafkovsky with his new extension. This is cap friendly. Before cap friendly goes down the toilet because the Washington Capitals decided that they want this and only this. So I guess we'll be using Puckpedia from now on. But Jesse, how good does that look? 7.875, 7.85, 7.6 million for those guys. You still have Newhook. Don't forget, under 3 million a year for Newhook for 3 more years. You don't see Dach here because he was on the IR. You still have Dach for 2 more years. And even then, he's a restricted free agent. You have full control over Newhook and Dach at least for the next 3 or 4 years, and you still have movable contracts like Dvorak and Armia, who are making 4.5 and 3.5 respectively, who are on expiring deals. Look at this roster construction. This is not to mention the plethora of defensive prospects the Habs have as well, Jesse. You're locked up until what, 2032, I think now, basically, like Suzuki a bit earlier, 2030. And like looking at that forward roster construction, it's not including Demidov, it's not including a guy like Xhekaj, like Joshua was there as well. And then you still have movable contracts to make room for some other guys. I mean, I don't see a single bad thing there, except for maybe the Anderson and Galley contracts. But like, when you look at this, I'll leave this up for you guys to discuss because I think it's an amazing thing. When you look at this, I look at this and I see a team that is ready to be very competitive in the coming couple of seasons.
That's for sure. And it will help when we can get the Carey Price, contract off so we can accrue money towards the cap just over the course of the season as well. But absolutely, it's like getting our top line. We now really have the structure for a team to really build, Josh. And it's so important to get that structure right. When you're building a home, your team, if you get that right, everything else can go there. But for that to fall in line, it's not always a given. So this is some really nice work by Kent Hughes. Obviously, I think that Slav is really happy. And they were saying that this is what they both wanted, right? But I really like how they made this a priority. Right on July 1st, we're not wasting any time. There's no sort of talk. This is a player. We're letting them know you're a valued part of our team. In fact, we want to help build this team around you. And we're going to let you know right away. Not to throw shade. We're going to even sign you before Cayden Guhle, who we know is also a big part of this team, right? And that's going to happen. But I agree with doing first things first. Let's take care of our man Juraj here and everything else like that. You got to feel like he's really happy, just kind of secure in that role. Now, we all knew this was coming, but now this is out of the way. We can really, again, help in that rebuild, help focusing on other ways. Kent Hughes focusing on other facets to really help improve this team.
Exactly, and some of those other facets, too, is how we're going to implement Demidov into this lineup. And I'm seeing some people like Matt there in chat saying Demidov, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, Caufield, someone in Dach, Newhook, Xhekaj, Tuck, Beck, Xhekaj. Like, there's so many potential lines that could come in the future. And when you look at Demidov, I want to ask you this because I kind of have my opinion of this as well that I'll give. Like, do you see him and Slafkovsky working together on a line in the future? Because I see Demidov, like, clearly he's going to be their top line winger of the future. Who's he going to replace? Who's going to play with who? I see a world where the Montreal top 6 is like first line, second line, or not that different in ice time, and you kind of mix and match depending on the matchups. Could be the case. Obviously, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, Caufield worked incredibly well. And I think people are starting to get a bit lower on Caufield because of this sort of down season, but he's going to be fully recovered from shoulder surgery. Don't forget, guys, it takes often, for people who have had this, it takes over a year to get back to where you fully were before and not feel that weakness, not feel that nervousness to shoot again. So Caufield is going to be like probably 100%. I'd say he's going to push 40 goals this year. You're going to see that again. But is Demidov the kind of guy that comes in and maybe replaces Caufield on that line and is able to set up someone like a Slav? Or would you see Demidov more as like that setup guy to play with Caufield, have two incredibly dynamic guys, one left-hand shot, one right-hand shot, two guys that can just go down the wings together with the center, someone like Dach maybe on that line? I think it's a really interesting question.
In his prime, Demidov will be a top line guy,
Yeah.
and Slafkovsky as well will be a first line guy, just for all the intangibles besides the skill that he provides. The thing about that is that they both shoot left, so somebody would need to go to their off wing. I don't really see that being the end of the world, but these are two players that would work so well together because their ability to see the play, and again, with wiring passes, like heavy passes. I feel like this isn't talked enough about Slafkovsky. He really zings the puck around the ice. And it's like he needs players almost that are able to do that, be able to handle it, first of all, and really take advantage once this kind of comes. So honestly, I could see them working so well on a power play for sure. I think that's a given. I think starting off, it'd be normal to see Demidov on that second line, left wing, Slaf, on that first line, left wing. But at a certain point, them playing together, even if it's somebody going to their off wing, these guys would be absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about the Demidov pick is to see him play with Juraj Slafkovsky.
I think it's going to be cool. I think we're going to see all kinds of different lines. Every line that we're seeing in chat, I think could very, very well happen. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Jesse, we get another super chat from BFTC for $2 saying Arber up front this year. Thinking big buff in Chicago. Arber up front. You know what? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see them moving Arber to forward. I think that's what you're implying, as in like Dustin, big buff. Yeah, I think Dustin Buff. Yeah, I don't know. I think Florian is probably, if you're going to get a Xhekaj, you're going to play up front for the Habs, it's probably going to be Florian in a few years. I don't know, Jesse. I'm not sold on that. I don't think there's I guess that's one way to clear your defensive logjam, but I think I'd rather have Arber on the back end for now.
It's happened before and it has worked. What's funny about like Bufflin as a forward, like he was actually getting a lot of points. Like he was so good as a forward, right?
Brent Burns.
But at the same right? Exactly. There's a couple examples where they get to the NHL and they just switch right away, sort of thing like that, depending on your coach. But I think that Arber, honestly, like he provides so much though in terms of protecting the net. Which, like, if the Habs had more guys like that, if I saw Savard being a part of like our long-term future or anything, obviously I think he's just getting a little bit longer on his career. Where it's like you need somebody now who's going to be that sheriff, in front of the net, taking care of his own territory, and everything else. I think that that's so important to have. I think that he's done nothing but kind of improve in his defensive game and knowing where that line is. Like, I think he could be an effective hockey player wherever he is. Don't get me wrong. I'm just a big fan of him, obviously can intimidate, be effective wherever, but I think his place is in front of that net, protecting our young goalies of the future.
Yeah, I think so too. I think most people seem to agree here. Taking a look at all these chats, some great stuff. I want to scroll back though, Jesse. There's so many chats. I'm trying to get to everyone. I'm sorry, guys. There's like 500 of you in here. Speaking of that, we're 19 likes away from 200. If you guys love this Slav stuff, I'd love for you guys just to leave a like. We're only going to be going for another 10-ish minutes, probably not even that. So if you appreciate the stream you're enjoying, first of all, hit subscribe if you're here. We got 491, and I know a lot of you have not hit subscribe. If you do, you can send chats, interact with this awesome community, and you won't miss a single upload that we have. Daily Montreal Canadiens content, including stuff just like this, weekly live streams, sometimes more often if there's a big event. A lot of great talk. Guhle 5-6 years. This year alone showed a boom of, Slav showed a bunch of confidence. Cole will be awesome. Cole played really well. I saw someone say the only thing he didn't do great was goal scoring, and I think there's a bunch of other stuff. Jesse, I think one of the final things that maybe I wanted to touch on is Guhle. Does this Slav extension to you indicate that they're just working on locking up this young core long term? Because like it seems to me what it signals to me is like, we were seeing tweets earlier today even saying things like, oh, I don't expect the deal to be done today, or I don't necessarily expect them to extend Slav today, and boom, they just drop it. There it is, 8 years, 7.6 per. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a Guhle extension tomorrow, or even tonight, or even in the next day or two, because this is a priority for Kent Hughes. Like we've said this whole stream, like we've said this whole season, the priority is the future, and Guhle is one of these defensemen that is going to be here long term. And you look at some comparable contracts, again, it wouldn't surprise me if you want to lock him up for like, I wouldn't be shocked to see them offer him 8 years as well. I don't know how much he would get at 8 years, probably closer to like 6.5, maybe like probably closer to 5.5, 6 if I were to be realistic, especially seeing what Slav just got. But it seems like Kent's going like almost getting bargains with these guys. Like, I feel like not every team in the league would have even given Slav 7.6. Some other teams in the league probably would have given him something closer to 8, right? So I'm kind of hopeful now to see what he has in store for Kaiden Guhle, because there has not been a move in the past, in a long time, that I've questioned from Kent Hughes, especially when it comes to contracts or trades.
And a little bit of a longer term deal definitely makes sense with Cayden Guhle. I'd say 6 years is probably around that sort of sweet spot with him there in terms of the AAV, everything else. But Kent said in his press conference today, he's open to those shorter term. He's open to those middle. He's open to those longer. It just depends on the situation. For sure, with Cayden Guhle, a longer term makes sense in a lot of ways, right? We know what he adds to this team. We want to secure that as well. Not only have those young forwards, but also those young defenders to kind of go with it in tandem, working as a team. And you got to feel like, again, just as these players play together, not only are they going to be better because they have more experience in the NHL, but also from playing with each other, being under the same system with Martin St. Louis, getting that consistency. If we're able to keep the same group of player, the same core, just that type of cohesion with the culture that we have already, I think could be the X factor for the Montreal Canadiens going forward.
Yeah, it's exciting, right? Like, just the idea that these things are happening. It's like a huge day in free agency. There's splashes left and right. And I know people are like saying, come on, Kent, do something. But Jesse, the fact that he didn't do anything and the things that he did were very calculated, again, like you said, like for this team's future, for building this culture, for building everything out from the ground up, basically from when they took over. He's not caving to this Montreal fan base that likes to put so much pressure on him, including us, including a lot of the fans. We love to put pressure on him to do stuff because we can make videos and you guys can share in these videos with us. It's all this stuff, right? It's amazing, but for him, like, it's about what this team is going to do long term. And I think there's very few teams in the league, Jesse, that take this kind of path. How often have you seen teams kind of too early go for a big name free agent and try and build around them, right? You have young teams that build their core up from the ground. You see a team like Detroit has done a decent job at it, but even at the same time, they had some of those skilled veterans that you still had to pay a lot of money. And Montreal is in a rare situation where those veterans making a lot of money, it's really just Anderson and Gallagher. I know Carey Price, but that's a very unfortunate situation, right? So we kind of don't count him. It's just Anderson and Gallagher on these kind of longer term, bigger money contracts. And, you know, it's not like clearly the team wants to play them, but they're not afraid to like play them lower in the lineup if other guys get a better shot. We've seen them both have time on that fourth line, third, fourth lines heavily, right? And of course, Galley had a better second half of the season is what it is, but allowing these young guys room to breathe and not being strapped by these huge albatross contracts that go on for years and years and years is going to allow for this buildup of a lineup that you just don't really get the chance to see in the NHL. It feels like all the stars are just aligning for everything to move forward just amazingly in Montreal. Like, look at the stability that we'll have for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Right. And there was a great question asked at the presser. Like, do you think that we could still be in the mix without kind of adding that, top 6 free agent kind of trade like that? And Kent Hughes is making his projections for even next year. And he's saying, yeah, absolutely. We're going to be better for X, Y, and Z reason, many of which of just what I named earlier of why we expect this team to be better next year. And he really feels like there's something, right? He feels like he has a top 6, even of right now, where they're really going to improve. Now, we think there's still moves to be done, in this summer. Obviously, Kent Hughes, he's always in the kitchen. He loves to cook. That's where you can find him, right? So we're not ruling anything out. Here. He's the consummate gamesman, always, he's always making moves. That's what he likes to do, So anyway, it's like if one thing we can count on for Kent, though, is to really stick to the vision, But for me, if he has trust in this team, I'm not going to lie. I could see, do we need to add something else? But we're really getting there. And I think it's just so important to really be patient with this young core.
And I think we all are. I think a lot of people love to be patient. Some people like to be impatient. It is fun to wish for bigger stuff, but I think we all can agree in the long term, this is gonna end well. Jesse, I wanted to end off by taking a look at this poll. I put it up at the start of the stream. I wanted to see what people said. We got 697 votes. The opinion of the Slav contract: amazing, not bad, not great, or awful. 0% think it's an awful contract. And I know we got a lot of Habs fans, but I'm sure we got a lot of fans from other teams watching and voting in that poll. 79% of you say that's an amazing contract for Montreal. 17% say not bad. That's 96%. Out of those, those numbers don't add up at all. How does 79 plus 2 is 81 plus 17? Whatever, Google. How does that even work? Well, I don't think they round properly. As we get another super chat right before we end things off from Matt saying, everyone hit the like button. Hey, I didn't say it this time. This was Matt. Everyone hit the like button, both on Matt's donation. Thank you so much, Matt, for being here. The 279. We really appreciate it. And leave it on the stream. We're at 214. I don't know if we can get to 250. I'd love if we could get to 250. I'm going to take one last look through the chats. There's so much here. I'll try to get what I can. Arber and Florian will be like the Bash Bros and the Mighty Ducks. 5.5 or 6 million for Guhle. I completely agree. I think that's kind of that sweet spot, especially after seeing the Slav contract where we get it. Love to see Leon. Absolutely agree. Guhle's a natural leader. He wore the C in the WHL. 5.5 to 6, 5 years for Guhle. 5 years is not crazy either. I'd like longer, but it is what it is. Alex says, I think we're in the mix for a wild card spot. Slide a healthy Dach in the lineup, and a lot of the one-goal games become wins. And we were right there. I think the Habs are going to be sneaky good. I think it's going to take a while to get things going again, Jesse. I think there's a lot of unknowns with this team, but I can see a world where they push the wild card spot.
No, definitely, right? And we see like Carolina, there's a lot of movement. They're losing a lot of players. And we know from one year to another, we just think, because a team made the playoffs last year, they're a lock. If that's a team that has a lot of free agents that might be gone, that's not such a sure thing, right? Obviously, we want to do this slow and right, and really to do it the right way as we really turn up gears. But honestly, I see us being much, much better next year, and I think Kent Hughes does as well.
For sure. One final look through here. XM saying, you realize how much Gallagher and Anderson have been paid the last year? He's an albatross with 6.5. I'm not going to argue that they're good contracts. I think they're bad contracts at this point for the caliber of play they have. But the thing is, again, if I bring this up, they are for 3 more years. It's definitely not ideal, but they expire the same time Newhook's up for a new deal, and Dach signs his deal 1 year before those are up. And you could very well move them in that last year of an expiring deal. And those 6.5, 5.5s, those are not going to look like much 2 years down the line when the cap goes up so much. So what I'm saying is, like, for the term that they have for Suzuki, Caufield, and Slafkovsky all entering their primes and what they're going to have for their young defensemen, those contracts are not going to bog them down in that contention window. And that's kind of what I was getting at. For now, yeah, they are, but they kind of don't matter right now, all things considered. So that's what I'm really, really looking forward to. Jesse, I think that's going to do it. We had an amazing stream. We had over 500 people in here on a beautiful Canada Day. I hope you guys all had a phenomenal Canada Day. We got the new setup here behind. I think it looks pretty nice. I'm going to try and tweak some stuff. But any final words for the chat before we end things off, Jesse? Just want to say thank you to everyone as well for tuning in.
Happy Canada Day to everyone. Thank you guys so much. Not only what's so great about the live, not only can we share, but we get to hear from you guys as well, right? And to share that with so many other Habs fans as well. So we really appreciate you being here.
One final super chat for the road from Joseph Donovan, a loyal channel member. Thank you again, Joseph, for being a member. $2, saying thanks for the vids and hard work, boys. Let's go. You knew we couldn't miss it for the world. Some Slav news. We had to jump on it. Thank you so much. Happy Canada Day, boys. Happy Canada Day to you, Habs fan. Appreciate that and the Newfieism there in the chat. Good night, everyone, says Blanco. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, because that'll do it for this Slafzilla episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to Habs Digest. We got stuff like this, streams like this every single week, videos on all of the latest Habs news every single day, and I know you guys won't want to miss that. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.